Hi guys, welcome back to Sidebar with Winnie and Katherine. I am Winnie, that is Katherine. There's lots to talk about today because I have not seen you in 2 weeks because, again, life schedules.
Yes.
You're a mom. I have no excuse. It's her.
We try. It really is. It's always me. Like, can we push it a week?
No, that's fine. I don't mind.
This is what it's like to be like a working, entrepreneurial-minded mom. Is that like you gotta roll with the punches?
That's fine because I just was like, all right, I'll sleep in today.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'm like, fine.
How do you like sleeping in now?
When I tell you, my schedule had been like I was waking up between 3:30 and 4 for 7 years.
Crazy.
It was crazy.
So early.
And everyone's like, how do you get used to it? And I'm like, you never do. And it's so true because less than 6 months later, I can tell you it took me about 4 weeks to get back fully into like the first. I would say the first month, I was like if I got up early, I have a trainer in Everett my trainer Sam, I love him. I don't see him that much anymore because I'm not.
It's on the other side of the city.
But I would get up at 5. And then go train and then come back by 7, right? Before there was any, crazy traffic. And then by November, I was like, you know what, Sam? I think and I would just keep sleeping in, and I'm like, I'm gonna do Pilates by my house. It's way easier.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll come see you on every now and then, but I'm just it took me 4 or 5 weeks maybe to just go to bed at 10 and get up at 7 or 8.
4 a.m. is so early. Yeah. 3:34 is. That's very early.
No matter what, it's always the middle of the night.
Yes.
Whether it's winter, whether it's summer, whether it's spring, it's winter must be so.
You're always driving in the dark.
So tough because it's so dark out, and I'm like, yeah, but also in the summer, the only good thing about the summer is that you can put shorts on, and walk outside. It definitely. But no, I'm here to tell you, it takes no time at all to readjust. I'm back to a normal person.
I don't know if you know, but we loftuses love our sleep.
What time do you go to bed?
I'm actually a night owl though. Okay. So the problem is I love to sleep, but I actually don't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
So I stay up late a lot. I would say early night to bed is 10:30. A lot of times I'm up until, sometimes I'm down here until 2 o'clock in the morning. Just I'm very productive. Not first thing in the morning, not 6 a.m., but after the kids get on the bus, have a cup of coffee. The next couple hours are zoom. From 1 to 8. Yeah. I'm if it's after lunchtime, I'm basically on the down slope. Yeah. Kids coming home, and then I get a burst of energy sometimes at 7, 8 o'clock that can last all night. After the kids go to bed. Yeah. So, but you know what I do love, and I often take one in the middle of the day? A good power nap.
Oh, so you know what? I actually got away from napping because when I was, in morning radio, it was messing me up, but I wasn't going to bed till late.
Right.
So then I stopped napping.
Right.
I'm like, a lot of people in morning radio do nap. They nap noon to 1, noon to 2, and then and I realized a lot of people were parents.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of them are parents.
Sometimes you literally can't help it. You're I need to sleep.
Before the kids are getting home from school, and then they go mom or dad till 7 or 8.
Yes.
And they're turning home the kids are, and then they might go back to bed at 10.
Yes.
But with me, because I don't have kids, I was well, it's I'm just up on my phone doing nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I do feel like I got away from that, but a lot of people in morning radio do nap. I actually used to work with this guy, Kevin Carlson, rest in peace. He was a lovely man. He ended up dying. Literally, they had to go find him because he didn't come to work. Oh. It was so sad. And his wife lived out of town because they had split. Because at the time they were split, they were in their late 50s, early 60s. They had a house in Connecticut and a house in Mass. So she was in the Connecticut house. So they unfortunately, one of his co-hosts had to go and find him.
Tough.
It's really tough. But the thing about him was that he was the nicest man. He would go to bed at 11 and wake up at 3. Yeah. So then he would come home and nap. So I don't know how he did it.
Right.
Because I could never do that. He would do 4-hour increment. 11 to 3 and then come back and be 12 to 4 or something like that.
Well, I think I could never do that. There's 2 different kinds of naps. You can take a long, if you're I really need to sleep, I will go in my bedroom and sleep, but that's very, very rare.
Yeah.
Except maybe after a long day at the beach, a little nap before you go out at night. Love that, a fresh shower. Yeah. But the power nap, that's what I do. So basically, if I'm tired today at my kids get off the bus at 3, at 2:30, I wait until that point because then, and I can fall asleep quickly if I'm tired. And so do 20, 25 minutes. It's the best thing ever. It's like you re-energize, recharge. Because if you nap anything over than like 35, 40 minutes, you're like in your sleep.
Yeah.
So then when you wake up, you're all grumpy.
Yeah.
So
funny you say this because last night I actually did not fall asleep till like 2:30.
Oh.
I don't know what.
You're gonna need a nap today.
No,
girl.
I don't know what happened. Like when I tell you, like my boyfriend and I were watching. We went to early dinner, and then like we came home and we were watching a movie or something like that. He fell asleep on the couch. So then we went into the room at like 10:30, maybe 11, if that. And then we were just like, I was on my phone, like tossing and turning. Like he was in and out of sleep. I felt bad. He's like, no, you're good. Like I'm like, no, I'll go in the living room. He's like, no, you're good. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. And then if you guys follow me on Instagram in Winnie's World, you probably won't see this because it was on my story. So it'll probably be away by the time you see this. I spilled water on myself.
Oh no.
And I went all over the bed and I can't sleep like that. So then at like 1 a.m. I was blow drying the bed.
No, you weren't.
And you should have seen his face. He was like, how did I end up here? Like he was contemplating.
You should have just put like a towel
I know, everyone
down.
said that, but I was like, no, because then I'm like the texture difference of the towel.
Yeah.
Like I was like, no, I wanted no. So then I probably didn't go back to sleep till like 2.
Were you up all night prepping for our podcast today?
No, I do absolutely no prep. I don't prep for anything in life.
What are you watching, Winnie? What are we talking about?
Actually, I'm so upset because all my shows I'm watching are over with. So I was watching Hijack on Apple TV. That just ended.
Yep.
I was watching Cross on Prime. That just ended. Those are both 2-season shows that have been completely aired, so go watch them if you have nothing to do. I've also been watching Paradise, which is on Hulu.
Oh, I've heard. Everybody keeps telling me to watch that.
Okay, when I tell you it is sci-fi, and I don't really like sci-fi, but it's really, really good.
Yep.
Again, this is now its second season.
Sci-fi can be done well.
It's done well.
Yeah.
I hate sci-fi, and I really like it. And the season finale of season 2 airs next week. So you have, if you want, there's 16 episodes basically to go watch. And then I'm also watching The Pit.
Oh, I love The Pit.
Yeah.
I love The Pit.
I do love The Pit. And then I'm assuming, I feel like White Lotus has to be coming back. I gotta look that up.
Probably soon.
And then also like Severance, I feel like that needs to be coming back soon. I'm trying to think of like, cause I'm running out of TV shows now.
I just started Scarpetta on Prime.
Yes.
That's about the Patricia Cornwell books. I don't know if you ever read them. You're probably too young. She used to write all these books, and I think she still does. I'm sure she's still writing, but I haven't read them in years, about this Dr. K. Scarpetta. You know, it was like an Alex Cross, like a character. So the books were always around.
Have you watched Cross?
No, but I read the books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I don't read. I watch it.
I'm old. Winnie. I'm going to be 42 next month. So like I used to read. And my parents are very strict with TV and stuff. When I was little, we always were like, you have to read.
Yeah.
So I like to read. But so it's the same kind of like, it's the same character, and it's Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
It's pretty good, but there's like,
she annoys me.
I know.
She says no to no role. No role has she ever turned down.
You know what? I'm like, oh, Amazon Prime, Nicole Kidman.
She's on everything.
But she's getting divorced. Maybe she needs some money.
I don't think so. I think there's enough money to go around.
I know.
Maybe she must love to work, but like normally people of her caliber, they're very picky.
Right.
And I feel like maybe she is very picky. Maybe she has 20 more things that she says no to.
Yeah.
But that bitch is always good for her.
Yeah.
She's always doing something.
She does a lot of. She likes the miniseries now.
I mean, miniseries are the way to go now.
Yes,
because you get a
100%.
nice little check. It's 6 to 8 episodes. If it does really, really well, they'll give you another season. But if not, you're like,
fine.
It was just a miniseries. We weren't supposed to do more than that, you know?
Yeah. So we were going to be watching The Bachelorette, but we're not because Taylor Frankie Paul. Well, you know, have you been watching The Bachelorette? Or,
I have. I think people listening that know me from the radio might think I did but I would say we didn't because we do like a recap. I have not watched that show since like it was like the best thing on ABC. Like I watched it.
Yes.
It came out when I was in second grade.
I feel like honestly, I'm like, who watches The Bachelorette? Like,
nobody.
Who actually watches it?
That's why they needed her to come on.
But it's surprising that people would still. It's surprising to me that like now, I mean before all this, but that like people are still going on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I mean, to me, just almost at this point feels like screaming desperate for fame.
Right. That's all it is. I mean, everyone is going to get Instagram famous at this point and then start their business or, get marketing deals. I will say the love shows that are like, okay, Love is Blind or Married at First Sight, at least they match you with people in your city.
Right.
That to me is a lot more realistic. Where it's not when someone doesn't live near you. Now I remember my boyfriend and I have been together for like a year and a half, and about like 8 or 9 months into our relationship, his lease was going to end. Say like it would have been like about say like we met in November, his lease was ending in September.
Right.
So around the summertime, him and his roommates were talking about what they were going to next. Now one was getting married, so he was leaving, and then one was like, his parents had moved down to Miami, so he was, I think I'm gonna move down to Miami. His parents have been down there for a couple years, so he's like, I think I'm gonna like just like, he's a guy in his 20s, like I'm gonna move down to Miami. Right. So my boyfriend was like, all his friends live out in Central Mass, and his family's from Central Mass, and he was like, I don't know, maybe I'll like move back to Central Mass, and I'm like, well, if you do that, like we'll break up, because an hour commute, I'm like, I go, either you're gonna be here all the time, so you might as well just move in, or we're gonna see each other maybe every 3 or 4 days, or like the weekend, which for me, at that point, we had been seeing each other so much, you can't take it away from me. Like once we've already, the standard is, okay, we spend every weekend together,
it's like going backwards.
Friday to Sunday, and then we have dinner together Tuesdays and Thursdays, like you can't then tell me we're gonna see each other just Friday and Saturday. Like that to me, like that wasn't gonna work. And like I think that's why we ended up moving in about like a year into our relationship, where we might have waited like another like 6 months.
If he still
but it was all about
timing,
right? And it worked out for us.
As it always is.
It really is. But I'm like, I think at first he was like, I think I'm his first serious, girlfriend. And so I think for him, he's like, ooh, like it hasn't been a year. Like, it's that far. And I'm like, we're like adults. We spend so much time together. Like, so I wasn't like that scared, because I'm like, if it doesn't work out, you just move out. Right. I think it's because I'm like, you move out. I'm saying it's my apartment.
This is my apartment. You can come in.
But it ended up working out great for us. But I'm just saying, like, I think when it comes to stuff like that, you're like,
it's just not. When's the last time any bachelor or bachelorette actually stayed together for like any length of time? They don't even, so it's interesting that they clearly were like on the ropes and wanted to figure out who do we bring in and whatnot. And I remember did you watch Mormon Wives?
Yes. I watched the first season, which was very bingeable. I watched it in like one day, and I thought it was really good trash TV, but then I never got back into it, and then everyone kept saying that it's getting way like crazy. Yes. And I have my thoughts on Taylor Frankie Paul, and I'm curious, and I also have my thoughts on Whitney, who is people deem as like she was the big villain, and then Jen and all of them. So I know all of them. Sure. I think I'll start first, and then you can go. Taylor Frankie Paul, to me, the first season had a likability to her. She was taking accountability for like the scandals with the swinging, the soft swinging. If you don't know, originally it started off, they were TikTok famous friends, like a bunch of girls from Utah, and a couple of them were basically swapping husbands, but like soft swinging, like so making out, but not necessarily sex. But I think she did have sex with one of them. Anyways, so she seemed to be taking responsibility because she was getting divorced and all this stuff. But the lack of accountability she has shown is insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane. She's like 32. I think her and I are the same age.
And she's got 3 kids. 3 kids,
right? And this whole thing that's been going on with her and her ex, Dakota, which is her second baby daddy, because the first one was her husband. So there's her ex-husband and her ex-boyfriend, right? Yeah. The ex-boyfriend, Dakota, we met in season 1. Yeah. That's when they first met, right? And the season 1 ended with them getting the cops called on them because they were fighting in the house, and her getting arrested. Right. And then Hulu said, fuck it, let's just keep going with the storyline. Right. And then Dakota, who was like a former, an addict, I think.
Well, he definitely, I remember in the first season, so I did like season 1 and 2 a little bit, but to me, it just, I'm an old school, I'm an old school. I was like around in the beginning of reality TV. Yeah, like so like reality TV today, a lot of it I really don't like, because the reality is everybody's like out there now. Reality TV used to just, it actually used to be a lot more real. Like you actually saw what was going on. So into the, getting into the ends of the second season, whatever, I was like, this is just so like, it's like almost not. It's like you love trashy TV, but sometimes it's like this is too much kind of stuff. So I watched season 1, season 2, but I will tell you, I remember when I think it was the episode that Dakota, he came to the house and he was outside. He like came in a truck and they panned to him and I was like, this is just my opinion. Jammed. I was like, he's high as a kite. Like I'm like, I mean, I can tell when someone's eyes are jammed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so like this guy's clearly, got active substance abuse problems. They've got, domestic violence kind of stuff. Yeah. But what it comes down to is like, there's like two ways to look at it. It's like about, you look at Taylor Frankie Paul and then you look at ABC. And I'm like, what incentive has Taylor Frankie Paul had to change? Because you're incentivizing her bad behavior. Yeah. She's getting, I just saw this morning, I was like, holy shit, on TikTok, right? I think it was yesterday or the day before. I'm going to find it right now. I could not believe it. Taylor Paul. She got, I don't want you to play. She got yesterday or 2 days ago 28 million views on 28 million views, 20 million views, 13 million views, 10 million views. So you tell me, is she incentivized to change her behavior? Yeah. Fucking no way. No. And you know what's going to happen? ABC's going to let it all die down because ABC knew exactly what they were doing. They knew there was a video. They knew there were charges. They knew she was an issue. They knew all of us were going to talk about it and this and that. They're going to let it die down, and then in 6 months they're going to put it behind a paywall on Hulu, and they won't air it to like promote it on Channel 5 ABC, but they'll put it. It's like,
but before the Rose special aired on Hulu, they
it did.
They put it, and then people were like, it's on Hulu. I don't know if it's still
after all this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still on Hulu, but it was like the first episode where like you're getting to know her before the guys come or whatever, and people were watching. I saw it on TikTok. We were like, oh, it's on Hulu. I don't know if it still is, but
I mean, how can we not watch it now?
But my issue, I have the issues I have with Taylor Frankie Paul, because at first I thought she was like crazy, but like a little bit. She was likable. She's pretty. Of course, they all are, right? So my bigger issue here is that if you watched any clips from the last season, her and Dakota, her baby daddy, have not really been together in a long time. Like they're off and on. Right, they sleep together, but like that's it, right? They're single. They don't live together. Like whatever.
But messy.
And he slept with somebody on Villa Vanderpump, right? And she's like, she's freaking out, and I'm like, girl, you're not together. Right. And this goes back to when they first started dating. When they weren't even official, they were like talking to each other. Right. He like hung out with another girl or kissed another girl or maybe fucked with another girl, and she flipped out, and I'm like, you're not together. Like she has had this odd like obsession or ownership over Dakota, and I understand he could be toxic. I'm sure they're saying he was maybe like he had domestic violence in his first marriage or something like that. But I'm like, well, say what you want. I'm not saying that his behavior probably hasn't egged her on, but at 30-something years old, you have to take accountability for your own behavior. As a mother of three, you have to take accountability for your own behavior. Right. You threw chairs that hit your daughter, and I've seen no accountability taken. No. You threw chairs when your daughter was in the room and hit her in the head.
Well, she is on probation, so she did take accountability in the courts, but not publicly.
But all the interviews she's done saying it didn't hit the daughter. Yeah, right. Yeah, it never hit the daughter, right? And then now she just came out today saying, oh, my daughter who's 8, I think. I don't know why she would have social media. My daughter has to relive this horrific moment. Why don't you say, I cannot believe I put my daughter through this. Right. It's all about everybody else. Right. Oh, whoever put the video out. Oh, Dakota for, making you mad. You need to control your own emotions. You need to go to therapy.
Well, and you think about, too, it's like it's not, because she doesn't even have the ability to say, like, this was in 2023. I took accountability. I was on probation. Dakota and I don't deal with each other. It's like you're still doing it. Yeah. Apparently, she missed Nicole was telling me, because she watches more and wise, that she missed the flight to ABC to sleep with her. Yeah. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, you're ready to be a bachelorette?
So, like, number one, right. So it's like all about, like, let's just take the veil off. Like, this is just a game so we can all be blah, blah, blah. It's like, she's not looking for love. She's not looking to get married. And respectfully, I mean, I remember when she was named, and I'm like, I don't mean to be rude, but like, who wants to marry her right now? Like, she needs to heal herself first. Like, she's not healed. Yeah. And you know what? Like, what happens is like, like you were saying, those kinds of relationships, they feed off of each other. I mean, it's like a very classic kind of, they up the ante, and then neither one of them can control themselves, and then they turn and blame the other. And you have to, the first step to that is recognizing, like, I have a child with Dakota. I have to deal with him for the rest of my life. I need to set boundaries for my own mental health and space so that we only communicate through a parenting app.
Yeah.
Somebody else does the exchanges for the kids. Like, so like you can't, you know what I mean?
And
you have to take yourself out of those situations.
And you see the comments like on TV. Like, I've been in a semester, and like, listen, 90% of us have. I have dated men that are toxic, that bring out the worst in me, and I still wasn't throwing chairs.
Yeah.
And I still like, and I was doing that shit when I was like in college, not when I'm a 32-year-old mom of 3. Like, I think there has to be. Stop acting like you're 18 or 20 with no responsibilities when you have all these things to answer to, and now you have brand deals and you have all these things that are gonna provide for your children. Like, people are gonna pull their money back because. I mean, being someone like I worked in radio where the only money you made was off advertising dollars. So as much as I wanted to be a crazy bitch and say the craziest thing that I could think of, a lot of the times you're like, well, shit, like, don't talk about McDonald's, don't talk about, I had a horrible meal at Wendy's, but I might never say that because, Wendy's is a client. Like, not that I like Wendy's, I'm not saying, but like I'm just saying an example, right? Yeah. Like, you need to think about where your dollars are coming from. And yes, for her, they're coming through views too, right, on TikTok. But nothing speaks more than advertisement money, or working on a TV show where they're getting money like Hulu, they're paying you through advertisement. If you're in the entertainment world, if you're on TV, radio, podcasting, whatever, unless you have a subscription podcast, it all comes from ad revs. So your boss, you have two bosses. You have the audience, and then you have the advertisers. If you can't find the line to make both of them happy, you're fucked. Right. And I think for so long, the advertisers for Hulu or whatever she was doing turn a blind eye because nothing came out that was more than her being just like an unstable, crazy person. Yep. Now that we're seeing violence against her own child, whether or not she meant to do it, I'm sure she didn't. It doesn't matter how drunk you are. That didn't sober you up in 10 seconds when you're yelling, your daughter's right here, she's crying, mommy. When you watch the video is like jarring. You're like, oh my God, I am not a mother, but if there was any child in a room like that, I would be like,
I know. Well, and it's also, but it's funny because I do look at, I don't know, it's like, also think I've seen enough like in the criminal system and restraining orders and DV, like it's like she's so escalated, right? But I also, like when I watch that video, I'm like, he could just leave. It's not his kid.
Oh, no,
it's not that. He's so.
Too,
no,
like,
I'm not saying. But I'm like, it is kind of an interesting. Like, why would anybody want that out there? Because they said it was like sealed with the court records, and then so it came out that way. But my question to you is, because you've been like in the in that world with ads and stuff. To me, though, it seems like, I mean, we're in like such a fucked up world where like morals don't really matter anymore. And I feel like people would still watch. Yeah. So I feel like, are these advertisers really gone or are they not? Are they just like, we'll put it on ice for now and then like test it out? Like if they put like a clip on Hulu, you don't think it would be like, in 2 months or something, like a little test clip to see if people would watch?
Well, I always say,
and then it's like, then they just go, I mean, ads they're really reflective of the people, like the advertising now. It used to be like, oh, this is what my business stands for, but I don't know, it's like, it's kind of
I always
weird.
go off of Middle America as your baseline. So Middle America is like the middle part, and then you can go either way. You can go super conservative, or you can go like super, left. No one, do whatever you want. No one gives a shit, right? Yeah. Everyone's pandering to Middle America, especially like in like football or something national. Like obviously Boston radio, I didn't like it skewed a little bit because we're more of like I don't think
regional,
modern, but like regionally, like Boston is considered, where like when I'm wanting education, and
we're just more elite than
like
everyone else.
We're just like a little bit looser in the sense of like what, like where, like for instance, you might run an abortion ad on Boston radio. You're not going to run it on Nebraska radio. You know where your audience is coming from, right? So I think with somebody that's a national show, right? You're looking at like, okay, how are the people in Nebraska thinking? Right. They're not always right about how's LA and New York thinking. They're being like, what's that big chunk in the middle of the from say, I don't know, Ohio to Wyoming? Yeah. What do they think? Because that's almost like we're always looked at as like New York or LA. Sure. But there's a large amount of people that live in between the West and the East Coast, and you have to always think about them sometimes too, depending on what you're trying to do. So if you're John Deere, you're probably not going to want. I mean, obviously you wouldn't advertise with Hulu anyways. But if you're a company that like you make a ton of money off farmers, you're probably not going to want to be associated with something like that. But
so do you think that do you think it's done on like ABC and Hulu?
No, I don't. I think ABC. Okay, the thing is also you have the TV network is different than the subscription base. So ABC, CBS, like I remember like we did some work with CBS and we were like always thinking like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Because they're a little bit more conservative because it's network TV.
Yes.
So network TV, either it's CBS, ABC, NBC, it's going to be a lot more conservative, not in views, but in how they portray things than a subscription base.
Right.
Even with like radio or podcasting, we have subscription-based podcasts. This was not when this is on YouTube. I have one and you have a Substack.
Yeah.
So we're like, we can do whatever the fuck we want.
Right.
Because we don't have advertisers, right? But with a radio...
Well, we'll take them if we want to come.
Right. But just like the kind of the nice...
Certain ones, depends.
What I love about subscription-based is that it's like you don't have to worry.
Yes.
And I think with Hulu and Netflix and all these places that used to be subscription-based only.
Right.
That ran no ads. Now that they're becoming now they're running ads again.
That's a good point.
Where, like, they would have been better off a lot of the times, I think, when you're subscription-based and you can get, I mean, do the math. If you get 5 million people to pay $5 a month. That's a lot of fucking money. That's not enough for you.
Yeah.
And then you have no issues with advertisement.
Right.
You can run whatever you want.
Right.
X-rated, N17, like the craziest things. And that's what I love about subscription based. If you're paying for it, you accept it.
Right.
Right. If you're paying for my podcast, you love what I have to say. You don't care if I'm outlandish. But when you bring in the advertisers, that's where you run the risk of like, okay, now they're gonna pull money away when something like this happens.
Yeah.
I remember I had a situation, and I wasn't involved, but there was a big Mexican fast restaurant that did a lot of advertisement with Kiss. And one of the, it wasn't me, I wasn't on air yet, but one of the co-hosts talked about a horrible experience they had where they had diarrhea or they were like sick. You know, they were food sick because of the place. And they named the place, and the place pulled a ton of advertisement across all platforms with the station, and I think also within the company as a whole.
Yeah.
And it was this huge deal, and then like within a year or two they came back.
Yeah.
So
Who was it?
Take a guess. How many Mexican fast casual places?
No, not that way.
Where you?
It
wasn't me. I was before me. It was before my time. But yeah, it was a huge deal at the time. Everyone was like, and that person has gone on to have a very illustrious career, and they no longer work in Boston. They work in another city. But like everything, of course, blows over, and you can, and it will, as time heals all wounds. But 3 years later, Taylor Frankie Paul has not healed anything.
No.
She has not healed the relationship with Dakota.
No, she's dancing on TikTok and getting 30 million views.
Yeah, and the thing is, she has not healed the relationship with herself.
What is the incentive to? I mean, that's what I always think about. Like, it's the same thing with like, addiction and substances. Like when you're in the midst of it, of like the fame and the power, and everyone's like still giving it to you, and like, even though you're nuts and crazy, you're still getting it. Like you're not. In the same way that, like, when you get sober, it's like you need to reach a low.
Yeah.
She needs to reach a low in her life. Like, she's not going to go get help now.
Yeah.
Everything's good. She's making money. She's just not, like,
I think your kids being taken from you should be a low.
But I don't think there's a...
No, didn't you see that Dakota and Tate, her ex-husband, both filed for full custody? And I think they were granted it.
Were they?
Yeah, I'm going to look it up right now.
But how did that... Like, see, what
They both went last week because Tate Paul, the father of the two older kids, he knew about the incident, but he never saw the video.
Oh,
and he saw the video for the first time when TMZ posted it. And if you go to his repost, his only repost. I'll pull it up on TikTok. I guess that's his way of speaking on it. Are about like lack of accountability. They're about. Hold on, my phone's being slow today, but yeah, therapy to talk. Okay, this is what his repost. Taylor Frankie Paul downplaying her 2023 arrest for a minute and 31 seconds. And all it is clips of her downplaying what happened with their daughter, and he reposted that. So that's...
I didn't know that he hadn't seen
the video.
Because that's what I was wondering, like, because I'm like, it's art, you know what I mean? It's old, so it's not like it's... No, you would... As an attorney, I would have assumed that they all had access to that.
That he could not see it. But if that's evidence, why could he not see it? Because someone pulled it.
Well, that was...
Because she bled?
No, well, because he doesn't have any. He wasn't a party to that.
So he doesn't have to see the video.
No, like if you're not a party, and I assume maybe the record was sealed because he was a minor.
Dakota, because Dakota was considered a victim.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
correct.
my other question is.
Yeah. So it's like because it depends on the specific case. Like so in that case, it was criminal with Taylor as the defendant, Dakota as the victim,
And the daughter.
And the daughter as the victim.
But him as the father of the victim.
Yeah.
Of an underage victim.
I suppose it didn't hurt. Maybe she didn't get charged with anything against the daughter.
But my other question is...
I know it was abuse. There was abuse.
I've been seeing this thing online. Is it FIFAO or something like that? Where anyone can pull... Like, that was public...
FOIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freedom of Information Act.
Yes.
FOIA,
so
yeah.
anybody could have asked for this video now?
I believe it was sealed, so no. So if it's sealed, no. But if it's public record, you can get anything.
But some people are saying...
Well, I shouldn't say that.
Because some people are trying to say that anyone could have gone and pulled that video.
No, because it was sealed. It was sealed because, like, a video, evidence like that, like, you can't just... You wouldn't just be able to get... You don't get evidence. You would get the court record. Like, so you can FOIA... You know, what is filed, what's on the docket, like what motions, transcripts, stuff like that. But you don't get evidence. You know what I mean? So if there's photos, if there's videos, stuff like that. But, and secondary to that, when a judge seals it, then you really don't get anything. Once it's sealed, nobody gets it. But his attorney, I mean, I don't know if the first husband, Tate, like my question would be is you should be able to get it through a court process. Like if you went into probate court, I would assume if you filed a motion or a subpoena, you can certainly show it's relevant to, you know, parenting care and custody and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know if they did
like
it.
He took her word for it.
That's what I'm saying. So
if you
maybe
notice,
he just didn't even try.
I've seen an interview before this kind of like all came to past, you know, the last week, where she said that her and Tate, her first husband, have a great relationship.
Yeah.
He's supportive, like whatever. And I think that's because he didn't realize what was actually happening, and it was all downplayed by everybody. Her mom downplayed it. I mean, everyone's downplaying her behavior, and I just feel like when you're a mom of three, when you're a human that's 30-something years old, you have to start looking within when you're like again, we've all been triggered. We all have had people emotionally abuse us, you know. I mean, emotional abuse is like a fact of life. I feel like someone's been emotionally abused somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little overused. You know what I mean? These days.
And
it's
I feel like your job is to remove yourself from the toxic parts of your life and do better. And if my daughter was hit in the head and had a goose egg on her head, I think that would be the biggest wake up call. That was 3 years ago, and nothing has changed.
And they're still getting. Something happened last month.
They had another fight.
Yeah,
that's kind of what started this again.
So that's the issue is that. But like I said, I mean, I really think it's there's something like in the psyche, because look at all of us collectively are like, you have everything, you got 3 beautiful kids, like, can't you snap together? But like, that moment will only come for her, like, when it comes for her. And, like, to me, objectively looking at it, I'm like, she ain't nowhere near it. And she's got everybody around her saying, you know, she's fine, poor Taylor. So, like,
But I will say that her co-hosts, I mean, not her co-hosts, her co-stars on Secret Lives of Modern Wives, they're the one that asked to stop production.
Yeah.
They're all sick of it, too.
Right.
Like, they're all moms. It's Secret Lives of Modern Wives. All of them, mom talk.
But
they're all
you know
moms.
what they also know? Is that, you know, that's the problem. I mean, that's the balance with like real life now. And then like, what do we do for the show? Because they know in real life, we don't want to deal with her. We don't want to be filmed with her, but we also know she's what brings in the ratings and is going to keep us. Do you think they have, you know, longevity without her on there?
Well, I do think they all had all their stock has gone up, obviously.
Yeah.
And people are saying, like, yes, I think maybe at first she was the one of the heads of Montauk, but so was Whitney and so was Michaela. Like, these girls all started it too. I know, like, they brought like that Layla girl in who I'm like, she wasn't even like when she started. I think when she started on Mom Talk or like Secret Lives, I looked them all up. I had more followers than her.
Yeah.
I don't know, she lucked out, but like some of them literally did all start it together.
Yeah.
I think the swinging scandal helped at at first.
Yeah.
But once you establish a cast of characters, normally you can hold your own like after that certain point. Of course, the second season to establish everybody, but like you need that like character. But once you have it, like I worked with a very toxic coworker who was the star of the show. Yeah. I have a whole podcast on it if you want to go listen to it. I have multiple podcasts on it in Winnie's World on Patreon. And if you're an outsider looking in, you're like, oh, they're all best friends, and then it's like, no, we're friends because we have to work together. Yeah, right. Like that person is toxic, that person is not fun to be around, that person is mean, and you're like, but our job is to be friends, right? And their job is to socialize on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So I can empathize with her co-stars because you're on this line of, well, we know the fans love this our dynamic between all of us. Yes, right. But for us outside of work, we hate it. We don't want it. Right. We don't we're like we just put it on for when the cameras are on. We don't really associate. Which is why, can I tell you,
this is why I don't love reality shows anymore because that's what happens. And I'm like, like if you watch, do you Bravo stuff, Real Housewives? No. Yeah, I mean here and there. So like, but I
back when I had cable.
The real stuff. But like, you look at like the Real Housewives in New York, and they were all like actually friends and like socialized together and all this kind of stuff. So you knew that like when the cameras were down, like they were still like hanging out. That's why I loved that stuff. I just feel like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see kind of where they go with it. Yeah. But
it works better when you're actually friends. But a lot of the times you start off as actually friends. Yeah. And then years of toxic behavior, you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And then you put on when you need to. Yeah. But you're like, and you of course, you have love for them and you like know them so well, but you're like, this is insane. If this was real life and we didn't have a mic or a camera, I would have cut you out years ago because you're so insane.
Well, that's why, that's why it's like, that's what it is. It's all these shows now. They just like, basically, it's like, oh, let's watch like toxic females together. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of over it. Like, I would love, they're doing for Real Housewives, they're doing basically the old school Real Housewives of New York. They're doing it. They're all down in like Palm Beach now, and they're gonna be like, doing the little. And I'm like, you know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be like, they get a little bitchy with each other, this and that. But I'm like, it's actually kind of fun. I want women. I'm honest to God, a lot of these shows now, I'm like, I want to watch women who support other women, and I'm like, they're all just like, behind the scenes before we start filming, we're gonna find all the dirt on this one and that one, and then we're gonna make sure we bring it up on camera, and they all collude together. Like, it's like a whole thing now, and I'm like, it just like promotes like the viciousness that all of us. I'm like, we all know all of us have it in us, women, to be fucking vicious bitches, but I prefer not to promote that unless we need to.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I feel like I think too, the Real Housewives has had so many spin-offs. Yeah. That they're then creating friend groups that didn't exist. Like you go
that's what I mean. Yeah. They're all like people.
It works when it's organic, and then when you add at least with Mom Talk, they were already all friends. That's how you met them, right? Right. But when you do so many spin-offs, you go to all these cities to find rich wives.
Then you just cast and they just cast the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. I'm like, but like you look at like in Atlanta and like Nene and Kim, like you could not have
Real Housewives of Atlanta. They have some of the best sound clips on TikTok.
Oh my God! But I'm telling you, like close your legs to marry men. But her and Kim, you could not, you can't create that. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So like back then, it was before Instagram. It was for whatever. So like. You got that like lightning in a bottle. Now everybody's afraid to be themselves. Then I don't think any of these people are actually like themselves on TV because it's very curated. They want to be, it's like that. You want to see who.
But then also it's all about editing too. How you edited. Yeah. You can be yourself, but they might edit you that way.
That's why I couldn't do that stuff. Yeah, I'd be too aggravated.
That's what I did love about being on live broadcasting is that you can't edit it. Yeah, right. It is what it is. Right. So you're getting what you're getting.
Well, that's what I learned. Like when I did all the stuff for Karen Reed. Yeah. Like I probably filmed like, and I know everybody did the same thing because they went through the whole thing, first trial, second trial. You filmed for like probably like 4 hours the first time, like 3 hours the second time, and then they used just little clips, and I'm like, that's never the clip I would have used. Yeah. Like, there's like, I talked about way more, or like, when you do things, and I'm like, that's what it's also taught me sort of in this world is, Yeah, you want to be in control of like what you put out there instead of like an edited soundbite.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't edit anything I do. I really
No.
don't. I mean, of course, I edit like Instagram videos to cut them down. Like,
Yeah,
if I'm
sure,
like,
sure.
But like when you're talking about long format content like this, I don't edit shit.
Yeah.
'Cause
No.
it's like
I
you only get that.
I won't even watch this. I'll just upload it.
Oh yeah, you only get that magic once.
Like,
You know what I mean?
Hopefully we didn't say anything wrong.
Yeah, no, you only get that magic once, in my opinion. If you rehearse something or if you are redoing it over and over again, it's not the same. It doesn't get the same. Does not like for instance, I did a little bit of Taylor Frankie Paul on my podcast in Winnie's World on Patreon, and I filmed it, and I filmed it differently because I was not in my house, so I used my computer, and it was like motion censored, so like it was moving as I was, and I talk with my hands a lot, and I'm like, this is gonna get someone sick.
Yes.
So at 20 minutes in, I stopped it.
Yeah.
I stopped it, and I'm like, I can't use it. So what I did is I recorded a whole new episode, but I still upload that as a bonus podcast.
Yes.
Because I'm like, I did it. Here's my thoughts on it.
Right.
But like, this is not. I don't want you to think this is what you're getting for the week. But here's a little bonus of what I think about it, because I'm not gonna edit it. Like, my thoughts on that, they all came out, and that's it. You know. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. Oh, get it now. This is actually perfect because I had the entertainment part of it, and you had the legal part of it.
Yep.
So let's transition to legal stuff. Kelsey Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Can you explain to the people who and what and where and why?
So Kelsey Fitzsimmons is the North Andover police officer who was shot by her fellow officer last June 30th. And that was because they were serving a restraining order on her that her fiance had taken out and had been granted on behalf of himself and their baby, who was 4 months old. I think it's Caden. And when the North Andover police went to serve the restraining order on her, the Commonwealth's allegation, the Commonwealth's position is that she pulled a gun on Officer Noonan, pointed it at him, pulled the trigger, it didn't fire, and then attempted to re-rack it, and that's when Officer Noonan then shoots her. So they started trial yesterday in Essex Superior Court. They went with a bench trial, so that means that you have just the judge decide, so no jury. And we heard openings, which is basically what I just said with the Commonwealth Police, and then the defense, who's Tim Bradle, who people probably know from representing Turtle Boy, former assistant district attorney and then longtime criminal defense attorney. And his position and the defense's position is that Officer Noonan basically made up that story that he shot her when she was pointing the gun to her own head, and then essentially like created this story to sort of cover up that he shot her and shouldn't have. So it's essentially he said, she said. It's very like classic criminal case because there's no cameras, there's no witnesses.
No body cam?
There's no, North Andover doesn't have body camera. No. And it's funny, it's a question people ask. A lot of people are always like, "Where's the body cam? Where's the body cam?" Body camera is it's expensive, so it's not.
North Andover is kind of a nice zip code.
Well, it's expensive too. Yeah, I know, but I like when I say to people, I'm like, I don't think Milton. I'll have to double check, but I don't think Milton has body cameras. And like, we're in a nice zip code, and we're voting for tax overrides for the schools. So it's like across. Well, number one, across the board, towns are down with taxes, but that's another story for another day. But with body cameras, you have to pay for the storage. So the initial all the equipment is not the money. I think it's like somewhere close to $1 million, but like you really only have to do it once and then like upkeep it. And you can get grants from the state like that, but it's the storage of all the data that is really expensive and like long term. So a lot of towns don't have, then the only certain amount of money gets appropriated to the police, and if the police don't have the money for it, so I do think it's interesting because people are always like body camera, but then they also complain about taxes too. So it's like we need one to fund the other. So they don't have body cameras. So basically, there's no witnesses to the actual shooting. So it's he said, she said. Literally, he said, she said. So yesterday we had the lieutenant who testified. He was the first one up from the Commonwealth, basically set the scene. Then Justin's sister, then Justin himself. Justin? So Justin is the fiance of Kelsey, who got the restraining order, Justin Nylon. And then last was Officer Patrick Noonan, who's the one who shot. So it's probably going to wrap up today, I would assume.
Oh, that's very quick.
Yeah, it's because it's a he said, she said. All you really need is the one. I mean, all you really need to prove it as a prosecutor is the police officer who shot her, because there's only 2 people in the room. You know what I mean? So anything everybody else testifies to, like, they're sort of setting the scene and talking about like everything else that was happening online, but it's not necessary. They're not necessary witnesses. So I think after those 4 witnesses, they're doing the trial now, so I'll catch up on that. But the Commonwealth will probably rest, and then I think Bradle's going to call Kelsey Fitzsimmons, because the only way to basically rebut Officer Noonan's story is for her to testify.
Yeah.
So I presume she's going to get up there and say, I never pointed it at him. I put it to my head. And then the judge is going to, essentially it's a credibility assessment he makes a credibility assessment as to who's telling the truth.
So is what they're trying to say is that the gun just went off and she didn't shoot at him?
No, they say, and he testified, she pointed it straight at me and pulled the trigger. And it clicked and didn't fire. And then he called it what was called, I don't know, because I don't know guns, a tap rack. He said, so she pointed it, that's when he yells, Kelsey, no. Because he says she comes like, he said she got me by surprise, like I wasn't expecting it. And he's like a SWAT guy, like, so he has all kinds of tactical experience.
So she grabbed his gun?
No, not his gun, her own gun. She just had it like hidden somewhere.
Okay,
so she like, he says, she like basically reaches in and like comes back like this and pulls, like it's like instantaneous, doesn't fire, pulls come back, and he showed it. It's like you tap it and then like rack it, and went to point it again, and that's when he shot her. So that's what the Commonwealth's position is, and that's what Officer Noonan says. So it's gonna be basically that story, or it's gonna be Kelsey Fitzsimmons' story, which I'm assuming is gonna be.
Now my thing is, she was 4 months postpartum.
Yes.
Are we thinking they're gonna do the whole like? Was she
I
having
don't think so.
A postpartum?
I don't think they're gonna do any of that, because
I mean, I don't want to discredit if she did try to fire at him. I don't know. We obviously none of us were there.
Yeah.
But 4 months. Like, why would they need a restraining order? Like, what was going on with her?
So
did they say, like, was it a mental?
Well, this doesn't come into court because, if you open the door to sort of what was happening before, it's just gonna like all the drama is gonna come in, and it's not actually relevant. So like that's what you have to think about. Like, okay, what do we have to prove for this charge against her, and all the reasons for the restraining order? Like, think about it this way. Even if theoretically the restraining order was only done maliciously, right, and it was all lies, it's still a court order that the police are required to serve on her. So it almost is irrelevant.
I didn't know it played to her state of mind.
Well, it can go to her state of mind. So this is the problem that I have always thought, and I think why they won't get into it. Originally, Bradle had said that they were going to call some sort of mental health expert, some doctor, or do that kind of stuff. And then he said they weren't going to call him. And they have a huge witness list, like 45 witnesses. But it didn't make sense because, so if he were to call her and basically put her mental health at play, then the other side is the Commonwealth gets to rebut that. And so the concern is, obviously, none of us know. It's like we only know bits and pieces. To me, it clearly seems like there was a lot going on. Seems like maybe she had some mental health stuff beforehand, like even before the baby, maybe. And just based on the probate court documents and stuff like that. So nothing that comes into court, but into this court, the criminal court. But Justin alleges that she had made threats to kill herself, to, hitting her stomach when she was pregnant, like different kinds of things that sort of happened throughout them being together. And then what happened in the spring is that she was sectioned for postpartum, went to the hospital, all this. So I mean, she was diagnosed with postpartum. Yeah. She was off the job. I mean, all of this is going on. So this is a complex situation, right? Then they go on a joint bachelor and bachelorette party, and that's on June 28th to 29th. And based on the affidavits and all the filings in probate court, essentially what Justin's position is that they were all, like, they rented an Airbnb. She got really, really drunk. She was fighting with him. Then she got physical with him. At one point, like, they had, like, were going up the stairs, and he said to his brother, like, I might need a little backup here or whatever. And so the brother was, like, outside of the door and heard her, like, screaming and basically, like, interjected. Whatever happened up there, all of them were like they reacted pretty, I think, seriously. Like, so he left in the middle of the night, goes to another place. Then the reports are that she allegedly assaults her bridesmaids, like is still wasted, all that kind of stuff. Has her parents go get, so this is like 2:00 in the morning.
Where's the baby?
With his parents.
Okay.
At 2:00 in the morning. Has her parents go drive from wherever they live to Stowe to pick up the baby at 2:00 in the morning.
My parents would never.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, so like but so that's what I mean. I mean, number one, like the baby's not in danger. The baby's with his mother. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But the parents go get the baby, and then I think go get Kelsey, and then after this, so the next day when everybody gets home, it's Justin, his sister, his friend Hunter, and then her best friend or maid of honor and her other bridesmaid basically have like an intervention without her, and they're all like, we're concerned she's gonna hurt herself with the baby. And they go get a restraining order. Now, also, and now people are literally, if you go online, people are like, he's evil, he wants child support, he wants to take the baby away, his family, this and that. And I'm like, listen, we live in Massachusetts where Lindsay Clancy just strangled her 3 fucking kids to death because she couldn't get postpartum care. Right. So, like, if you have somebody who's threatening themselves, threatening the baby, I'm sorry. Like, I'm like, you know, and it sounds like to me, I'm like, you know, I was thinking, I'm like, could he have done something before getting a restraining order? Because like I said, you never want to, unless you have to, you don't want to escalate it because it creates, you know, like dangerous situations for everybody, and it just like makes everything worse. But it sounds like to me, it sounds like probably her mom and dad or stepdad or whatever were, I mean, the fact that they went and got the baby from the other grandparents at 2:00 in the morning, I'm like, it's almost like Taylor Frankie Paul. People around me sometimes. So I think it's complicated, but I also do think 100% is she suffering from postpartum. 100% is she struggling. 100% did the police come and say, like, we're taking your baby and taking whatever. Is your life crashing in on you? 1,000%. So, like, I don't diminish at all that she was probably in, like, crisis mode and pulled the gun. But I honestly feel like the fact that you had just a gun laying around and had access to it, she told the police when they asked where her weapons were, she said they were secured in the basement. They were all in the basement. You know what I mean? So it's like, because, but this is a case, another case, like a Karen Reed case or whatever, where people literally just pick a side. They picked a side right at the beginning, and then it's like, so most people are like, free Kelsey Fitzsimmons, and they literally have like vilified the family, and I'm like, listen, could he have done things differently?
Yeah, but at the same time, you know she has access to weapons.
Well,
like, she's a police officer.
But also,
couldn't they have gone though too first to like her job and be like, she needs to have her guns taken away?
Well, I mean, I think that's basically, with a restraining order, you take the firearms away.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to. Maybe
that's why.
Yes, you have to.
He had to do that. Yeah. Because if you know someone has direct access to a weapon, right? You're gonna want to get them out of there.
And she was texting him that day that these are the texts that came in, or there was a motion to eliminate for them to be admitted. I don't know if they have yet. She was texting him like, I'm going to take the baby far, far away from you for a long time. And I just think if you were to reverse the male and female, I don't think in any world people would be like, say, and it really bothered me too a little bit. And listen, these are the things that like now I'm, as a legal commentator, I could make these kinds of arguments instead of like, you know, because like Bradel, when he was asking about the, you know, basically talking about like the 219A system, he was like making Justin seem like this is just like some vindictive guy and like, well, he's the person, the plaintiff in the restraining order. I'm like, you know what? The restraining order system is not perfect. A lot of people abuse it, but it also really helps save some people, because you know what? If you have a restraining order and someone comes near you, that entitles you to call the police and be like, I need help right now. And they, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't like when people like make it seem like automatically, if you go get a restraining order, like, oh, they just dismiss it, like, oh, you're being, because they basically, online is like, he went and got it so that he could get child support and take the baby, but he doesn't really like the baby. His mother's evil. They're all in it together. I mean, this is what I mean, Winnie. People are losing their minds. Like, I'm watching the trial yesterday, and I'm like, you know what? the judge is going to look at all these 4 witnesses and be like, they're pretty credible. And they're telling the story
What is she
about
charged with exactly? What are her charges?
assault with a dangerous weapon. So basically pointing the firearm.
What if she's guilty, what would she get?
So you could get a maximum, these are the potential sentences. She's not going to get this. Maximum of 5 years in state prison, 2.5 years, or 2.5 years in the House of Correction, or you could get some sort of in between. Like she might get, I think there's a high chance she's found guilty. But those, now all the circumstances will probably come into play when it comes to sentencing, right? Like, so instead of finding her not guilty, like, yes, she's probably legally guilty. Now we're going to go into the why and the fact that she was suffering. So we're not going to sentence her to 5 years in state prison. We'll get her like probation. I mean, she was already in jail a couple of years.
Any jail?
Probably not, because she did it time last year. I bet she gets like.
How long was she in jail for?
She was in jail when she was held on bail. So maybe a little bit, a couple of months, 3-4 months. So what could happen is like they could sentence her.
Served.
It's called like, because there's only one count, it would be basically be, you would, so say he says, I'll give you 18 months in the House of Correction, 90 days to serve, deemed served.
Yeah.
And balance suspended for 2 years. So that basically means like, okay, I'll give you time served for what you served. The rest of it is probation, but if you fuck up on probation, you're going back for the remainder of the sentence, 18 months.
That's probably something like she'll get.
Yeah.
Will they do that all on the same day?
Which is basically probation.
Will they just sentence her all on the same day tomorrow?
A lot of times they would normally, but with this, they might schedule. I mean, I would assume he could just sentence her.
And
but
do you think she has still no contact with her child?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem too. I mean, I feel terribly because obviously this was a person in. Again, like what we're talking about, women in crisis, right? And different consequences for different kinds of people. And I think that my understanding is that she still doesn't have any contact with the baby. So like, you know, I mean, that's deeply problematic to me too. But I understand, like, this is why, okay, honestly, this is why people should take this stuff seriously and understand that, like, when you involve the court, it often gets worse. And like, that's not to discourage people not to use the court system. But like, if you dialed this back a little bit and you were like, okay, both sets of grandparents were like reasonable and like, yes, she's suffering. Okay, like the most, in my mind, the perfect outcome would have been like Justin goes to the family and is like, I'm taking the baby. I need you to understand, I'm not trying to take the baby from Kelsey. I'm not trying to fight whatever. I'm concerned she's doing all these things. I don't want to get the courts involved. I just want her to get help, and then we'll figure it out back in. And everybody says, okay. So then you never have to go to court. You never have to escalate it, because if that were the case, she could have gone, maybe taken a little bit more time, gotten some help. They figure it out, and then she still has her job as a police officer. He's still a firefighter.
Yeah.
She sees the baby. But instead, it sounds like maybe her parents were starting to be on the defense, and once he saw that they were on the defense, probably once the parents went and got the baby at 2:00 in the morning, he was like, they're not going to be reasonable with me. So I went to court. And so now they're in probate court, and in probate court, there's an entire record of her, you know, mental health and being potentially not safe for the child. So, and now she doesn't see the baby. So it's so complicated. And I just hate that people like reduce it to, like, someone has to be the villain in every story. And I'm like, I don't know that that's what it always is. But life is, people are complicated.
The fact that this baby is, I think, 13 months old. I just looked it up. The baby was born in February 2025. 13 months old, has had
zero contact with the mom. I mean, it's so unnatural.
Yeah,
like, so the bond gets lost. Like, so that's what I mean. It's like, you know, for me, Winnie, I'm always like vacillating between like, I feel like I'm truly like 50% prosecutor and like 50% defense attorney, because I have like, I was always good at negotiating good deals, stuff like this. Like, let's be reasonable. Like, always let reasonable minds prevail. Because when people are unreasonable, look at this is what happens. You go get a restraining order. She freaks the fuck out. I'm losing my job. I'm losing my life. You're taking my baby. I'm just going to pull the gun. Whether she points it at herself or points it at him, that's proof that he should have gotten the restraining order, that she pulled the gun.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter even if she pointed it at her own head.
To be fair, none of that matters. All that matters, like you said, is that moment.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not, like, the reason why he was there, the reason why he was serving it, doesn't matter. All it matters is, did she try to shoot at him?
Right.
Right? That's all that matters.
And all that, and how that's going to be decided is by the judge about who he believes, basically.
Would you, if you were the defense attorney, would you have gone jury or bench trial?
I think I probably would have gone jury, because I think you could at least try to, because what you have to do is to reduce the credibility of witnesses, and I think it's a lot how to do to a judge who's a lawyer.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I feel like if I was her, because the defense gets to pick, right?
Yes.
So if I'm the defense attorney, I would pick jury, because
Yes.
you have 12 people that are probably gonna be hung.
Well, like, think about
think about how many mindsets are gonna go to, she's a mom, or
Yes.
she's this, or,
Yes.
or well, like I think it would have been like one of those situations where, like, we can't figure that out.
Well, because and because a lot of times with he said, she said, you can persuade a jury and be like, you don't know though, you don't know.
Right, with a judge, I feel like a judge,
because also, like, with credibility, the way you attack credibility is like, you know, like he was saying to Lieutenant Danny, well, because he testified and said, well, I saw the gun when I found her, it was like to the side of her left leg. And he's like, well, you didn't testify that in the grand jury. You said it was under her left leg. And like, we're talking with a judge, it's like, or a lawyer, it's like, well, that's semantics. Is it here or here? Right. But with the jury, you can be like, he was, you know, he did this, he did that. You just, your job as a lawyer is basically to fool. As a defense attorney, I don't mean, a lot of it is like to distract and fool. Like, don't look at this.
Let's be real. The thing about doing with a judge is you're going to get a sensible outcome. If you do it with a jury, it's going to be based off emotion. And if you're Kelsey Fitzsimmons and her lawyer, you want it based off emotion.
Yes.
Because sensibly, she's probably guilty.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Emotionally, if you're going into where she was mentally, and you know, if there's 12 people that walk in the room, there's going to be someone that knows someone that had postpartum or had themselves, or you're going to be someone that's had mental health. Like, there's going to be way more play to emotion with the jury, and that to me is the only thing her case has is playing to people's emotions.
I was very surprised that they picked that show.
I'm very surprised, and I'm not a fucking lawyer. And I'm like,
because it's like, because you just don't.
You don't want sensibility in this type of thing.
No. I mean, because we don't, as lawyers, we are taught to, you know, I mean, we really are trained
through the emotion part of it.
Yes, and be like, dial it in.
Hopefully next week when we're here, we will be here next week.
Yes, we'll be here next week.
We'll have
we'll definitely have a verdict.
And we'll break it down because she knows all the law, and I'm good with the emotion.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. Thanks, Winnie. This is great.
You're welcome. Find me in Winnie's World everywhere. Also, if you're in the Boston area, I am doing a public speaking engagement in Haverhill on April 10th at WOW. It's a Women's Opportunity Conference. And I know, and I am doing my speech. It's going to be about the journey of a bitch.
I love it.
Literally, that's what it's called. So get tickets. You can DM me or in Winnie's World, or go to haverhillchamber.com/wow, and then you can find me in Winnie's World everywhere else. Where are you?
Beautiful. And you can find me everywhere at No My Objection. That's I mean, literally everywhere. Substack, Instagram, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye. I wonder how long that was.
That was good.
That was like, I think that was like over an hour.
That was an hour and